those shows because they were predominantly done for a newspaper. So
Okay.
that, originally developed for them. So when they stopped funding it, the show stopped. I could have taken it somewhere else with my own sponsors, but I had other things I was doing. I didn't want to continue. So.
I tell you what, Keith. Well, let's do this. We're having a little disconnect between Facebook and YouTube right now. So what I'm going to do, or Facebook and Zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go live on, we're going to make this the very first YouTube channel live. What do you say?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's actually streaming right now. I'm going to go ahead and share this on.
Great. Okay. US to Bangkok. We're there.
A little disconnect. That's right. I love it. I'm going to, let's say, yeah.
Okay.
One moment here. This is just very unprofessional when we go live this way, but I want to make sure that everybody can get to us.
Yeah, it's okay. The internet has a way of wreaking havoc. Sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes when you need it.
Yeah, well, had I not taken an allergy pill a little while ago, then I probably would have been a lot better space right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you or the internet.
I'm going to blame me for this one, but the internet's responsible for an awful lot. But okay, so one moment here. Oh my God, you've got your boards going. Fantastic. Okay. Perfect. We want the intro music. This is good.
Yeah, a little heavy metal intro theme.
I love that, man. I'm gonna have to put you to work, buddy. This is great.
Anyway, yeah.
Excellent. Well, okay. Let's start today and this evening by thanking my sponsors, 5 Star Guitars in Beaverton, Oregon. If you have any desire to take up the guitar and do some playing, they have lessons available. You can book with the world famous Jennifer Batten through 5 Star. If you want to pop in and grab an incredible selection of guitars, they have everything, including this massive, beautiful wall of Paul Reed Smiths. The brand new refreshed showroom. You can get repairs done in there. And if you don't feel like popping into the store right now and putting a mask on, you can just go to www.5starguitars.com and book online to get your new rig. So we're doing something a little bit different tonight, and it may take a few minutes to click on over to switch to the All Access Live YouTube channel. There was a little bit of a disconnect between Facebook and Zoom, and thankfully we've got a great set of people that are watching us on YouTube already through the channel. So after giving you a few moments, and we had this wonderful introduction music by my good buddy over in Bangkok, I'd like to introduce to you somebody that I met last February and knew the moment that I set eyes on him on stage and listened to him play, got to rock with him, that I wanted to have Keith Nolan in my life forever. So here he is sharing with you, my pal Keith Nolan. Thank you for being here, buddy.
Hey, you're very welcome, Kevin. Yeah, and a pleasure to know you too. It was great playing music with you, meeting you. One of my favorite moments or memories about that night that I met you, the check-in 99, right, in Sukhumvit, was that there was a drum set there that was left behind from the previous band that I think you play with, your drummer. Yeah, right.
But he split with the drumsticks, and so I had to snag some wooden spoons out of the kitchen in the back room to do some playing.
That's right. And you did amazingly well, considering you had playing with spoons.
Yeah. Well, I've done those kind of gigs before when I've left my own stuff behind, but I was kind of proud of myself that night. I made something happen. But you had some killer funky jams going. And so I know that you have a regular band that plays there, or well, excuse me, played there. That you were you curated a band of your own, and that was the band that I saw that night.
Yeah, Cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth. Okay. How often were you playing the night at the check-in?
You know, we were playing probably 2 nights there, Fridays and a Sunday night. The Sunday night was kind of set up for a jam, but it was just kind of a regular gig. But if we had friends come in and we knew they could play and stuff, we'd invite them up and get them up. Friday was more of a kind of Friday night gig. It wasn't really a jam. And we played a few other venues around town, of course, as regular gigs.
You know, I was sort of blown away. Our friend Brian Abrams was the one that brought me out to see you. And you had Keith Shamrock playing just prior to your set as well. And he has this really comedic sense, right? So it's funny to watch him do his it was a comedy routine / musical act.
Yeah, Lee is just fantastic. I mean, I don't know a song that he doesn't know, you know.
Yeah.
And he can mess with it too and add his own lyrics and make it really funny. He's really engaging with the audience, and that's a talent in itself. Not only is he a great musician, but he's about the people. He there's no ego. He doesn't make it about himself at all.
Right.
You're there, and he will do everything in his power to make sure you have a good time.
Yeah,
that's great, you know.
It is. I mean, it's certainly why he was gigging a whole lot prior to the pandemic. And I was just amazed that these expats that Brian brought me around had amazing chops and such a variety of different music. And I ended up playing with 9 different bands that week that I was there, which is just crazy. But I had so much fun. You know, it's obvious that you've got a long pedigree. Your capabilities are rooted in some real professional training. So you're from Ireland originally.
Yep.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about your formation of your craft, my friend.
Well, where do I start?
You were one?
Yeah, I was one. I was born in Dublin. My father was a jazz musician and played in all the big old show bands back in the day before they had groups, you know, before they had 4-piece bands and stuff like that. You know, in Ireland, everything was you couldn't get a gig if you didn't have minimum 7-piece or 10-piece band. So my father came from that very old school professional musician ilk, you know, and
Okay.
he was a keyboard player.
Okay.
Player, and quite famous at that time. And so we had a piano at home, and by 4 or 5 years old, I was sent to lessons, and I was playing piano, and I just played it for the rest of my life, basically. And I did all my classical training. I was finished by 10 or 11 years old. I'd done all my classical. And then I just wanted to play in a band. I wanted to be able to play freestyle. And so my dad would take me to see real musicians that were playing in a band. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to be that guy, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember the transition from only being able to play what was in front of you and read to having nothing in front of you and saying, how do I learn that song? Whether, you know, whatever band, whether it was, you know, on the radio or on a tape or on a record, and sitting down and working it out. That was a real difficult transition for a while. And of course, I was a teenager, so we had Deep Purple and we had Led Zeppelin and we had the Police and Elvis Costello. All these albums where everything was new. All these bands, all these genres were coming at you. You know, every week there was a new band.
Sure.
You know, the 80s, you know, the Seagal, your band, and Duran Duran, and so you'd sit there, and I wanted a synthesizer, so I got a job on a milk truck delivering milk while I was in school.
Really?
To buy my first Vox organ, and Lazy, I think, was one of the first things I ever played on that when I got that.
Really. Which one was?
Lazy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I had an affinity with Hammond, and which I still do. I play a lot of keyboard in different styles, but I love Hammond and I love blues. But you know, so yeah, that's kind of where it started. I worked as an electrician in electronics till I was 21. Went to Australia, and then I just played music in Australia, and I ended up with quite a few different bands. some blues bands and did a few albums. And then I ended up with a world music band called Yuppie Indie, an Aboriginal band who I toured the world with. So yeah, that's kind of how it started out. And I just, I just wanted to get better and learn as much as I can, and all styles of music. But I always go back to blues, New Orleans, Chicago blues, anything with horns.
Yeah.
Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire, any Doobie Brothers. It's
Man,
great music, and it's still relevant and great today.
absolutely. It's interesting. What made you decide to go to Australia to pursue that genre of music?
Well, it wasn't so much to pursue music. It was kind of, when you grow up in Dublin, I just felt I wanted to see the world. There was something else out there.
Yeah.
So, and I played music right up till and toured professionally till I was about 21. And when I had enough money to leave, I applied for a visa to Australia. And, it was just exploratory, really. It just was it was somewhere I didn't know a lot about, but I'd heard things about. The weather was much better. That was a big plus.
Right.
And I was 21. I was ready to go. I was ready to take a challenge on. And I felt if I stayed in Ireland, you were there wasn't I could play, and I was playing, and I was playing with some very well-known bands and doing very well. But I kind of saw at an early age that this was it, and it wasn't growing.
Sure.
So I thought in the meantime, I'll try and see some of the world and see where it takes me. So that's.
It's still atop my bucket list. I've not been to Australia, and I want to go. I'm dying to go. But
it's a great country. It really is. Yeah.
For most of the bands, a lot of the 80s bands that go over there, it's difficult because it's so far, it's expensive to get there. Promoters and people that are buying the bands will typically have the lead singers go down, and then they'll supply them with a band when they get there because it's easier to, less cost. So I'm gonna have to go on my own dime, and I'll have to just go explore. But I've got.
When you go, I know some great musicians over there, so you'll be very welcomed.
Yeah. I like David Sterry from Real Life is in Melbourne, and we talk quite often. We had him here on the show, and quite a few friends that have also moved there from the States. Envious in some ways, but I think so. When you talk
particularly Melbourne, where I live, I've toured all over Australia, but Melbourne I was based in.
Okay.
Really 9 years or so, 10 years. But that city is very multicultural, and it has great food, and it has a great live music scene. Well, at least it had until the kind of mid-90s. Then the casinos come in, a lot of places that had live music changed their stage to put machines in because they were going to make more money. It was quite sad.
Sure.
There was a huge break in the music kind of scene and culture at that time. Because,
interesting.
But it was a great place to go out and see and hear live music 7 nights a week for a long time.
You talked about the culture and, great live scene, great music, great food. That's certainly the way it is where you're at right now. How long were you traveling before you decided to go to Thailand?
Well, yes, you're right. Thailand is quite similar, strangely enough, to Melbourne, particularly as opposed to other states and cities in Australia, because it's got that melting pot feel to it. And Thai people love music.
Yeah.
And they have traditional music like we do in Ireland. So I kind of felt quite at home here also. They have a great live music scene, and the Thai bars have Thai music. They have their own scene. They have their own indie scene. They have their own rock scene, and just about every bar and restaurant has a singer or a duo playing music. And then there's a lot of Thai music venues. So it's a huge music industry here. For us farmers, there's less places for us to play. Because, the local places that really relate to local musicians and in the local language.
Sure.
I don't sing Thai. Whilst I work with a lot of Thai musicians in the recording industry, and I have Thai musicians in my band, and that I work with on different projects. So, but there is, for foreigners, it's a misconception. People think that they'll come to town and they can play everywhere. There's a lot of places, but actually, when you look at it for us, there's less places for us to play. So in the early days, you would come here and you would find a place that had some foreigners and Thai people going to, and then you would make it a gig. You would start playing there and put some equipment in, and then it became a venue. And then over the years, people just opened live music venues.
Okay.
But with COVID and other things in the past few years, the economy has been somewhat dented, and now COVID really hurt a lot.
Oh, sure.
Some have closed and will not reopen. Other places we don't know if they're going to open or not. You know, so yeah.
Well, the place that I saw and played with you just closed just prior to COVID, right? So the check-in.
Yeah, that was already experiencing a lot of difficulties getting people in, no matter how much we pushed it and marketing. And in Bangkok, there's a lot of elements involved. It depends on the street you are, how far you are away from a sky train or a residential area, if you're in this district or if you're in the residential area. So, you know, Bangkok's a very big city with 10 million people. So
right,
it's hard to corral people to certain areas, you know, or move them from one area. If you've opened up in a new street in another area, it has a different dynamic.
What methods do you use to market the band there? Do you use social media stuff, or you just try to get the word of mouth thing happening?
Oh,
okay.
You know, there's several ways. One is to use an email database of all your expat friends and business people and relationships you've built over years. That's very, very important.
Okay.
It's also coupled with doing Facebook events, you know, sending stuff out and letting people know and having a reasonable reach in your own personal reach on Facebook, and the venue's credibility, and also the musicians you book and play there. People will say, oh, this is a great venue because you've got great bands playing, you know, and there's a lot of great both foreign and Thai bands that will play. Especially at Check-in 99 over the years, it had a very long established reputation, good reputation. So they're the kind of things, if you're a new venue, you've really got to build on those things. And if you don't have credibility already in the music scene, it's hard to get those bands to come and work for you, like quality bands and bands that already have an established following that people will go and see. So, and it depends the target market that you're trying to attract to your place. If it's younger, you need young, energetic bands, and everybody needs to contribute more and more these days. Before, people would go out and there was enough expenditure of people to go to all the venues.
Sure.
Now people very select where they will go, what they have to spend, and things are much more expensive than they used to be. Everybody thinks Thailand is cheap. It's not.
Right.
You know, it's much more.
Yeah, I know some things are cheap, you know, but
yeah, there's still things that are cheap.
Yeah.
Relative to Europe or the States or Australia, you know, the lunch or dinner or going out to dinner. But when you live and work in Thailand, things are relative to what they cost in Thailand.
Sure.
So,
yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. So when you came from Australia, did you have a band established that you moved there, or what brought you to Bangkok? Was it just?
I actually moved from Australia to Vietnam. I was touring with a band from Australia, and I ended up in Vietnam.
Okay.
And in mid-94, I decided it was time to move on, and I really wanted to move to Asia. So I actually moved to Vietnam, and I set up there, and I was touring, going back and forth to Australia or Europe from Vietnam. And I got into doing music for TV commercials because Vietnam was just opening, and there was a lot of production and advertising agencies doing foreign brands and everything from Coca-Cola to Nescafe and hair shampoo commercials were all emerging and being promoted in Vietnam. So I kind of, in Ho Chi Minh City, I got into doing that there, and I was playing live with some Vietnamese musicians as well. So I did that for 5 or 6 years and kind of established myself there. And I was coming back and forth on production jobs to Thailand. And then I would go back to Australia with an Aboriginal band, Yata Yindi, that I was touring with. And we do Asia and Europe. And then in '99, that was my last tour. And so when I came back to Vietnam, I had a choice to make. Did I want to continue on in Vietnam, or did I want to move on? So at that time, there was an Asian crisis in '97, and it took 2 or 3 years. The economy wasn't so good at Asia-wide, and Vietnam was hit very hard. So in 2000, I made a decision to move to Bangkok.
Okay.
So that was how I got to Bangkok. And I basically had some friends here that I knew in production, and I would go out into the jam in the music scene. And after some months, I eventually put a band together and start to work in the music scene in Bangkok. So that was, that was in 2000. So
really? Okay. 20 years ago.
years are flying by. Yeah.
Wow. That, it's amazing to me to think about you getting into like Vietnam and breaking into the production of these commercial, like the jingles and the commercial work. As somebody, I don't know if you had contacts there. I would think as an Irish expat that shows up in Vietnam, as you said, that it just started opening up. So there were job opportunities, but if you're competing with the locals, then how do you go in? Do you speak the language? How do you compete and show your value over theirs?
Yeah, I do. I speak Vietnamese. I can read some as well, but I couldn't obviously when I went there. So you have to make connections and friendships and relationships with, fortunately at that time in that era, in Asia in general, Bangkok was quite similar in that fashion. There was only a handful of places and music venues and restaurants that foreigners. But when I got to Bangkok in 2000, there was no Starbucks, there was no coffee club, there was none of these brands were here. They literally had a Hard Rock Cafe and an Irish pub.
Okay.
And a couple of other places. All the foreigners went there. So, whatever industry you were in, you would get around and meet each other. And people were very helpful back then. It wasn't as segregated as it is now.
Sure.
So people like, hey, oh, you're a musician. Oh, you do production. Oh, well, my friend is such and such and has a company and his clients are such and such. We should talk. I can introduce you. And you really have to kind of find your feet and develop a reputation and get to know people and work with people. And there's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Sure.
You help with this, or do you know somebody? Hey Keith, where can I get my business card printed? Or hey, do you know a good web developer? Do you know a graphic designer? And people recommend each other. So it's literally starting from scratch.
But it sounds like, but using a network of expats that you found was the kind of the key, right? So you could start with somebody that speaks the language, understands, I do love the idea that there was a commiseration that you guys could connect and look out for each other, even if you were brand new to the city. I felt that when I got to Bangkok last year, that, you and Lee, and when Brian brought me around to these different places, even the locals, the local Thai bands and the Thai musicians, we went to Hua Hin and played with Stonehead band. And these guys, like everybody just treated me as if I was a local. I didn't feel like an outcast. I didn't feel like, oh man, great, we're going to have that guy come up and sit in with us. It wasn't like that at all. It was really welcoming. And I really felt like the Thai people in particular were so kind. And one of the things I did when I went there was, the typical tourist thing to take a tour through the temples. But I hooked up with this ex-monk that gave me this tour. Kind of was behind the scenes instead of a normal tour guide. And he talked about, he took me to these students that were studying in this monastery to, they were taking their tests and they were studying like peace and serenity and kindness and love. And I thought, man, I just came from a chaotic part of the country in US, right? And I felt so warm there, not literally too. It was like 100 degrees, humid and sticky, but it really wasn't, it didn't feel like it was a show. This is just how the Thai people were, no matter where I went in the country, which was another reason I can't wait to come back,
Yeah. And I have to say, from the time I got to Bangkok as well, Thailand, and the way I've been treated and the friendships I have, you know, I'm closer to people here than I am in my own country. I have more friends. I have people I connect with. I've learned some of the language, so I'm evolving as a person. I feel I'm better, and I've been given more and experienced more by being here. And the food is great. The people are genuinely welcoming and great, and they treat you with a lot of respect. And yeah, it's very different where you come from a country, and both of you have and I have, you tour to all sorts of other countries, and people are very standoffish unless they get to know you.
Right.
But here people are willing to, you know, show themselves to you, and if you accept me, then I'll accept you.
Sure.
It's really an amazing
It,
thing
it,
and this world, because there's so much less of it everywhere else.
it's so true. And
And
you know what? I think I noticed that. I bet that's one of the reasons that I gravitated towards you, is I'm like that at home. And probably uncomfortably so, that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a hugger. I hug everybody, and it creeps some of my, people out that are more introverts, because they're like, man, is this guy really that friendly? Or they think I'm trying to sell them something, and I've got to just say, like, I'm just grateful to be doing what I'm doing. I love playing music, and but you seem to be that. Well, I will tell you. Okay, so that experience, a lot of times in bands that I've just met, you just came on stage with your band, and most guys would be winding down, and oh great, another guy comes up after the show and says, hey, great job, and you can kind of just go, okay, give me a little bit of space, and kind of brush them off and go on with your day. But you were excited to sit and talk and tell me a little bit about your gig, and you even kept jamming. We went back up and jammed, and you were doing these like really cool Herbie Hancock kind of Stevie Wonder kind of jam funky things, and I think you can see the joy in playing and when you're on stage. Have you and you've obviously been a music director for a while, right? So you understand the ensemble and the way to sort of control the environment on stage. Is that something that you've done for a long time, to be able to direct the band?
Yes, because I've been a band leader for quite a while, and I write material. So when you write your own tunes and then you go to rehearsal, you need to be able to tell people where you want the groove at, or even though people will have their own input, you kind of need to bring the structure in and say, or let's try this and see where we go. But somebody has to call the shots, and somebody has to kind of direct people. But I've also to get people involved and kind of build something both here, and I did the same in Vietnam. I started a jam session. So we used to have a blues session every week in the old Czech restaurant. And then I started a jam session on Sunday afternoons 10 years ago. It's still going.
Wow.
After COVID. And it brings people together. And of course, I don't mind managing it, because I learn and I get something from it as well. But it connects people. And now also over the years, it's quite established. So young musicians can come in. And I remember being those young musicians when I was a teenager. Right. And when I was jams ago, how do you do that? And guys would show you stuff, and like, that's your real education in music, is being able to, 50% is being able to read it and learn it, but the other 50% is listening. And right. People, and it's great. I see a lot of the great musicians, the masters, on YouTube, and they're saying, well, this is how I play this is what chords I use, and you go, so that's how he does it. This is great, So I set those things up. And at the beginning I was nervous because I hadn't controlled a jam or anything before, but you just get to it, and those people are still great friends. So
wow,
it rewards you in many ways. You have friendships, you have people that care about you people I care about, and you get to play music. We had Dean Parks turn up at our jam a few months ago, and I'm like, my God, this is Dean Parks, and he was cool as cucumbers, and he just wanted to jam, and we played, I think, Mercy Mercy or something, and the band were in awe of this, incredible professional, and super nice guy. And so you get moments like that, or Jerry Brown, the drummer. Obviously.
Yeah. You didn't make him play with spoons, did you?
No, no. He had six. He had six. And there's moments like that because you put some time and effort into creating something, and then one day, these amazing musicians walk in and share what they can do, and they're the moments in life that are really make life worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
For musicians and for just as people, and yourself, in all the things you've done, and then you come to Bangkok and hang out with some of us locals, and you develop an amazing relationship, and you can carry that to the grave with you. You can't buy those experiences.
It's so true.
And they have to happen to you.
Yeah, no, I feel blessed in so many ways for those kinds of things. I think, if it wasn't for Brian, who had met me on the 80s cruise about 5 years ago, he and his wife sat down and talked to me when it was the very first 80s cruise that they put together. And so they hadn't quite, the cruise company hadn't, I think, really sort of ironed out the patron musician sort of angle yet. And I was hanging out with everybody. I'm a huge music fan. So I was hanging out with Huey Lewis and Kool and the Gang and all those guys when I wasn't hanging out with my own band. And Brian was one of those people that came up and we sat, and I think we had breakfast one morning, and he just kept saying
he's just got such a great energy.
Yeah, he does. And he's, like you said, he wants to give back. He's always wanting to make sure that people are having a good time. And so when he brought me over and he said, I'm going to introduce you to people that are going to change your life. And I am not one of those kind of guys that woulda, coulda, shoulda, just pass something up. We went really last minute to get over there. And I think about so many experiences that I had there, but we went to this elephant sanctuary in Hua Hin, and it was a game changer for me in a lot of ways. But the musical part of those things, I can remember every musician I played with. I can remember every venue that we were in. I can remember the vibe and the feeling of the songs, and feeling like there was this unspoken language that we had on stage, even if we were just jamming, that I go to bed at those nights just thinking, man, how, I never would have expected to have these kinds of opportunities. Right. And we just did huge shows. This last year with the band, we did bigger shows than I've ever done in my life. We did 90,000 people in Quebec City, and playing in front of 90 people at check-in was actually as fun, right? Because we just had this chemistry on stage. Speaking of those big shows, I know that when you did the Aboriginal band, you were doing some huge shows, right? That band in particular. Tell me a little bit about that touring life and what that band had done.
Well, they are obviously Australian, and Mandawai, the singer and writer. It was a mixed band. It was Aboriginals and white guys, and they had a huge hit called Treaty, which took them worldwide, and it was a real danceable and tribal tune. So they had a huge hit with that, and they've been touring the States and Europe and Asia for quite a long time. So on all those tours, they would always do a university, because again, they like to give back and teach people a little about Aboriginal culture as well. So they're fantastic ambassadors. I'm very proud of Australians once they're Aboriginal, and the music's just incredible. So yeah, I was very honored to be an Irishman, come to Australia, tour Australia for a long time. And I'd been back and forth to Vietnam before I even got the gig with the Indie to go back with them. So a strange full cycle for me, but I was very honored, and still am, to have been part of that. So we would do some huge festivals in Europe, and then the biggest for me and highlight of my musical career was I got to play Glastonbury in England with them, and that was 80,000 people as well. Over a few days, and I really felt that I was part of the bigger picture. That I, here I am. You know, you have to pinch yourself because you're backstage, and on that particular, so you roll in your trucks and stuff like that, and you're there for like 2 days, and then you roll out, and it's just a big machine that you roll in, the bands are rolling out, and it works like that for a few days, for the 3 days or something. But you know, while I was there, we get out of the van and we go and get some food and stuff and check out backstage at the big area, and you've got REM here, and you've got Lenny Kravitz there, you've got the Clash over there and Joe Strummer, and then I'm talking to Deborah Harry from Blondie.
Nice.
And the band is standing there, so I'm going to go and talk to Debbie Harry, and they're like, no way! Go straight up and shake that woman's hand, you know. And I did it. I've got a great photo somewhere of her, but she was really lovely. And I got to meet Joe Strummer.
Oh, wow.
And he passed on, I think, a year or so after that.
Right.
And one of my favorite moments in life, and apart from the musical part of it, was during one of the days I was standing, we were backstage, and Lenny Kravitz was standing directly opposite me, and he'd come out of his porta cabin, and we had ours in the truck, and we were just kind of staring at each other, and hey man, I said, hey, how's it going? So we kind of inched forward into the middle of this swampy ground, and we got talking, and then we went to the porta cabin, and we sat there for about 40 minutes just talking, very little about music, and we didn't talk about keyboards, and he brought me to see his vintage, his Rhodes and all his gear, and his amplifier had these tiny little photo stickers. He used to get those photo sticker machines, and it was a tiny photo next to his volume control on his massive Fender Twin, of his daughter. And I said, is that your daughter? And he goes,
Zoe?
Yeah. And he said, I see that smiling face every day I go to work. The first thing I do when I turn on my amplifier and turn up my volume, I see that face.
That's beautiful.
Like, that's something you don't see in the newspaper or in. Yeah. And we were, so we talked about Ireland. He loved Ireland and had been there quite a few times. And we just spoke about places we've been and people we met, and I wish that we'd talk more about his albums and music, and I like some of his music and some of his Taxi Driver.
Well, that first record, oh my God, Let Love Rule, Mama Said. God, it's so good. Downtown Julie Brown from MTV. So you'll, I don't know, if you get a chance to take a look at my archive of videos, I interviewed Downtown Julie Brown from MTV. She's become a dear friend of mine, and I gave her first drum lesson on the beach in the Dominican Republic a couple years ago. And she said she wanted to play drums, and she's sitting there in the bikini. I got to try and teach her, that, and you bet, as long as you need. But we've been doing this virtually. She lives in Italy, and she wanted to learn low off the most recent Lenny Kravitz record, and I told her there's an interesting drum beat to it that's a little complex if you've never played drums, right? The kick drum pattern's funky. So I said, go back and you listen to Let Love Rule and listen to Mama Said, right? And that those both great tunes and very simple drums, but that's Kravitz playing everything on that record. He did everything: guitar, bass, drums, keys, everything. And it's one of those things where she gets the energy from the song, and she just wants to feel the energy by playing it. And these, she's got this wide-eyed, youthful energy, right? Because she's a brand new musician, but she grew up with this music, and she and I are talking about these experiences like you and I are, where talking about different shows. You went to Glastonbury, and she goes, I said, what was your most memorable moment, even if it was not related to MTV? And she said, well, the MTV moment was bringing Queen on for Live Aid. And I go, oh, okay, right, you win. I don't need to have any. We're not going to arm wrestle over the cool gigs, but
that's pretty big.
but the musical part of this, and I just thought of Kravitz because I saw him with some of your Homeland brothers a few years ago. He opened for U2, and so there was a huge 360 tour. That was what they called that, the U2 tour. Kravitz was during the daytime, had his huge band, big backup singers and the horns. U2 had so much production, right? They had like the massive like spider like stage with the crazy lights, and Kravitz came out in the daytime with no production. He had old vintage amps, and the monitors were jacked. His in-ears weren't working. And so he kept talking and complaining. Finally, he rips his ears out and he talks to the monitor engineer and he's like, hey, dude, enough. And just winged it. And it was really cool to watch him have, push forward with the show, complete professional, but you could see, that this guy, he walks on stage and exudes soul. There is nothing about that guy that does not feel what he's playing,
That's I got that from him when sitting talking to him. I could almost feel that this is
right.
This guy, a pure soul. He was almost angelic. Like he was soft spoken. He was just, had this great energy about him.
That's cool, man.
The highlight of talking to him was we were just sitting there having this conversation. I thought that this is awesome for me. Here I am. This is great. I've made it. I'm sitting here having a conversation with Lenny Kravitz. I'm like, who can I call? Can I call my mom?
Yeah.
And the door swung open, and Al Green walked in.
Oh my God.
And Lenny Kravitz looks at me as if to say, holy shit, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like it was that moment.
Yeah. You shared it.
People in shock. In awe, and he bustled in. He was a big guy. He bustled in with a couple of people, and I actually have a photo of them together, and they never got one with me
no.
in it. But it would have been very uncool to say, "Oh, look, it was great talking to you. Can I have a photo?" So Al Green is standing there, and Al Green was a huge fan of Lenny Kravitz.
Oh, man.
And they invited each other to each other's church and houses, and said let's do a song together sometime. And you could see Lenny's face was just as in awe as me.
Right.
So, yes. Yeah. I'd love to do that. And that was a moment where all barriers were broken down.
Yeah.
There was no barriers, there was nothing, and here was greatness and purity in it was all about the people. It was all about the music, and it was all about these two. It was all about the music and the people playing it. And I just sat there thinking, for that one moment, I thought, how amazing is that to get two people of that ilk that respect each other at that level, and it was really special. That was and the highlight of my musical career.
Well, and to share the air right there in that small vicinity between the three of you, right? I mean, that's the thing, is that in a circle of the three, there is this sort of unseen energy flow right there, so you got a little crazy, soul R&B DNA in you that course through you,
I think so. I think that's how people connect, and there is something that can't be explained about music and energy and the people who play it, and why you can see a lot of great bands and there's a lot of great musicians, but the people that have the gig are working with that guy. When you meet them, it's not all about the music. You realize this guy is a great guy. This is why people are working with this guy. You might have somebody else who is technically better and stuff, but not everybody wants to work with that guy because he might be not so nice,
Right.
And so I think a lot of good vibes and being a good person can really take you to some beautiful places in your life.
It's funny because I don't know if you've seen any of the previous interviews that I've done, but that exact same subject matter has come up about 24 times at least. I have friends here that are in the drummer community that have come out with me on the road, and one of them in particular, dear friend of mine, he's watching right now, so I'll just call him out. Andrew was side stage at a House of Blues when I was playing with that band Animotion. Obsession was like their big hit song. He was sitting off the side of the stage, kind of arms crossed, and I came out the stage and he's like, man, why do bands, like, why are you getting the call for these gigs? Why are, he was a little bit, sort of jealous and envious. And he said, why are you getting the call on these gigs? It's not like you're that great. I go, You're right. No, I think the biggest reason is that I, first of all, don't act that way. I think 90% of the gig is that the people that are hiring want to be around that person 24 hours a day. So if your hang is good and your chops are okay, then you're solid. If you're reliable and trustworthy and all those kind of the things that aren't related to actually putting notes on paper and hitting beats. But
Yeah.
the I wanted to touch on Stevie and really quick because another person who when Stevie Wonder walks in a room, you don't have to see him, you just feel it. And I know as a keyboardist, you've got to be like a fan of Stevie and his chops. And I the NAMM show in LA and in Anaheim a couple of years ago, I was there with my son. Sunday night, they're packing everything up at the NAMM show. And we were in the Roland building, and I was looking at the drums next to the keyboards. Everything is shutting down, and they're trying to get everybody out of there on Sunday when this entourage comes in. There's nobody really in the whole wing, and 20 or 30 guys are all gathered around this one dude migrating over to the keyboards. And I could see it's Stevie Wonder, and he pops in, sits down at the keys at about 10 feet from us. And my son said, who's the dude in the shades? I go, it's Stevie Wonder. He goes, no, it's not. And I said, yeah. And he sits down, doesn't feel the keyboard out really. He just starts rocking. He's just jamming, And they kind of left the wing open for him at the end of the night, so that he could do he wouldn't be bothered, right? Uninterrupted. And my son's like, no, that's not Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder's blind. And I go, yeah, well, that's the thing. He is. He goes, no, that guy, look at the way he's playing. The guy can see his hands. I go, no, it's true. This is really Stevie Wonder. But I remember that it was almost as if you had this like static electricity in the room when he walked through and went past us to go and sit down. It's really strange how, what, and I can actually tell you, and this is on
how you can be affected by somebody,
I felt like that when I went to see some of the temples there in Bangkok. When I met these monks that were so old that dedicated their entire lives into sort of communicating peace and positivity, and everything about those guys was all just communicating love. I hate to sound all, like, foofy, but
I thought this was a rock and roll interview. Kevin, what's going on?
And it's funny, man, because I'm not a religious guy at all. I'm fascinated by culture, and that was the thing that I thought, man, it was.
Right, Abraham, what have you done to my friend Kevin?
This is all mandated that we speak about this as part of the U.S.-Thai relationship. No, I'm kidding. But it's the unspoken stuff. It's the energy, that I'm talking about, and I kind of feel like no matter what country you went to, right? If you walk in with an appreciation and respect for the other musicians, which is why it worked for you when you went to Vietnam and why it worked for you when you went to Australia. And do you have any aspirations to get outside of Thailand?
I'd like to tour. I'm working on a blues album at the moment,
okay.
Which I started a couple of years ago, and then we kind of tracked some tracks, and then I was kind of writing some more. So there was no pressure to finish it. So we've actually started working on it again, and I've written some more, and we've got the tracks pretty close now. So we're just adding some more guitars and stuff, and then I'll go in and do a vocal. So after COVID and things get back to normal, it's kind of been horrible for a lot of people, but it's also been good in a sense because it's made me realize we really need to lift our game again and kind of do what we can to reinvent ourselves. A lot of friends got in a bad way because of COVID. Myself included, everything stops.
Right.
So you got to do what you got to do. So my plan is to be as productive as possible while I can, and then finish my album and finish things, get things done. So when things do get back to some sort of normality, we can all get back and start touring again, start playing gigs again. And you need to, if you plan now and write your songs, get your bio together, do video, do what you can to be prepared for when you do go back out on the road.
Good advice. Yeah, man. When you
Be ready, don't kind of wait for it. And then, and it's really hard just to get it going, but, do what you can now, if you can, to prepare. It makes me feel like I want to get back out there, and I want to do my local gigs here if they're still available. And I want to put some new tunes together and have a fresh start, get some more stuff out on YouTube and albums cut, and start touring, because it makes you feel good when you play live.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, man, this is Keith Nolan's How to Hustle 101. This is pretty good. You talk about going out there and touring. Say COVID never happened, right? The pandemic wasn't there. You'd still be doing quite a few gigs weekly at your establishments in Bangkok. Were you traveling outside the area on a regular basis as well, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, semi-regular. We used to do more some years ago, but in recent years, we played Cambodia several times. We'd go to Phnom Penh. We'd do festivals. We did Joaquin, we did Krabi, we did Phuket, we did Koh Samui a bunch of times, Vietnam a bunch of times. And they're always nice to get away for 2 or 3 days, go play a festival and come back, or go play Cambodia and come back. And they're always nice to be away because you're with a bunch of people, and you're kind of, you're both a tourist and you're there to work.
Right. Yeah.
But you get to see other cultures, you get to meet other cultures, you meet great people at the gigs, of course. And, we played this gig. I was touring with a fantastic and famous Australian artist, Deni Hines, who I also tour with. And we played in Vietnam, and our first gig when we arrived, they wanted us to do this cultural thing. We turned up, it was a roundabout in the middle of Hanoi.
Oh my God.
A roundabout in the city with 50,000 cars and motorbikes whizzing past. We had to stop the traffic to get us literally onto the roundabout where the city was in the middle of the city. And there was people just whizzing by and beeping horns, and I'm thinking, what?
Oh my God.
What is going on?
This is with Cottonmouth?
No, this was with some of Cottonmouth, but we have a touring band with Deni Hines.
Okay.
This Australian vocalist and singer. She's amazing. And so we were there for a few days, and we did Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City and Hue for their 300-year anniversary of Vietnam. And reunification, and it was shock. It was just like on the road in the city. And if you've ever seen any videos of the traffic in Vietnam, I mean, it's ridiculous. And there's very few cars, but there are thousands of motorbikes coming at you. And there's no left and right. It's just like
free for all. Yeah.
First in, best dressed. Like we're going to go until we feel it's their time, and then it's like, and it's just like that, But
nobody got hit.
It was incredible. So yeah, we in recent months and the last year or so, it's been less overseas gigs, less of everything. I think just the world economy, people are they're more conservative about their spending and their advertising. So, that's a whole other world of things you're going to have to deal with when things come back.
It's the truth. Yeah. You seem to, obviously, the hustle. And if you're really wanting to do some touring outside, it seems like you've got enough contacts and ways to be able to do it, even if you have to do it on a shoestring budget, right?
Yeah.
You sell, you bring merchandise and sell product when you're out there too?
We have in the past. We don't have any t-shirts or anything left. Usually the festival will provide, tour t-shirts with you on it. If you're on the list, so we might get some of those. But I haven't. Cottonmouth has t-shirts, and I've signed up and made some t-shirts on teespring.com. Mm-hmm. So if people want to buy one of our t-shirts, they're actually available there. But we don't have supply anymore. We did some months ago, and some people bought them at our gig in Bangkok at Portico where we played. But I haven't made any.
I wonder just about touring, and if you're on a shoestring budget, right? The ways to help supplement the income, if the income is not guaranteed good, solid money, but you've got CDs for sale and t-shirts and that kind of thing, whatever you can do. One of our drawbacks or hangups failings with the Flock of Seagulls is that a lot of times, just because Mike, our singer, lives in Liverpool, then transporting merchandise overseas is ridiculous. It's expensive as heck, and so I wondered how prevalent it is there. When I saw so many bands playing, I didn't see bands out hustling their CDs and hustling, like download cards or T-shirts or swag or anything.
Yeah, they're not. It's not a big thing, but I think that's starting to change. Now, if you go to a concert, if Santana comes to Bangkok, for example, and he plays Impact Arena, and you'll have Carabao, one of the biggest Thai rock bands, usually they're also very good friends with Santana, so they'll play the support gig. You know, they will have stalls.
Oh, okay.
Well, they'll have stalls on the side for merch.
Sure.
When you go to a Thai concert of some of the Thai rock star bands like Body Slam, there's some bands called Body Slam, Clash, Seiko, Asniwas, and all these bands you might not have heard of, but that are huge. They will have merch stands outside. All Thai people know them.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I played some keyboards and recorded with a band called City Fools that were huge some years ago here. And when these guys release an album, they will say 1.8 million copies within the first week.
Oh my God. Wow.
That's just starters. Another friend of mine, Seiko, also a huge superstar here in guitar player singer, he'll do a concert, minimum 25,000 people will turn up.
Wow.
So, and then, Seiko is known overseas to Thai communities and some foreign communities, but the local bands that are so big, people don't even know who they are overseas because they're singing in Thai, and these guys are huge and sell a huge amount of merch and CDs and downloads, or it's all downloads and streaming now, of course.
Right.
But T-shirts and mugs and whatever, but they are doing huge sales. Like these albums, you're talking about 1.8 million, and maybe it'll get up to 2 million or 3 million within the first 3 weeks.
Amazing.
I think if we get a gold record, it's 25,000, or platinum, it's 50,000 or something, right? So over here, they're huge figures. So so there is a lot of merch. Local bands and smaller bands, they do smaller things. They might have T-shirts, or they might have send you to their website for streaming or Spotify, or they'll usually have a line ID that you can scan and follow them and stuff like that. So they're quite tech savvy, and it's going more tech savvy, I think, in the future. Nobody's buying these. People don't even have CD players anymore.
Sure.
So that's kind of out the window. But people are, like you said, they'll when I release our album, we'll get cards, and you'll be able to hand somebody a card and say, here, go here and
download link,
or here's a discount or a free download. So there'll be promotions. I think these are the things that are going to be much bigger in the future. Plus, albums are kind of passé now. People are. I spoke to a famous Australian artist, Richard Clapton, and I said, hey, so you're still making a lot of albums. Because we don't make albums, we make tracks.
Yes, really singles.
Yeah, just single, and you might back up 2 or 3 songs, or if you're, I think you might have a bunch, but you'll release this one and this one, and then when the next one's ready. But if you release an album, you're getting one big bite of the apple of 12 tracks, and then you've got nothing for a year or 2.
Right.
You've got nothing to tour as well.
Right.
So if you're a band, you want to go tour, you need product. You need to put out some new tracks. So, but people are downloading a track. If they like it, they might get a second one. If not, there's so much information coming at people so fast.
That's true.
An album, it doesn't really make so much sense anymore.
I'm glad that you catch that. I'm wondering. I saw the Hammond shirt there. Are you endorsed by Hammond?
I'm not. No, I wish I was.
Not yet. No, but it's good promotion though. And now that you wear that, hopefully somebody in the marketing is seeing that. And they're gonna. Would you be comfortable at all? Maybe playing me a track off your new record, playing live.
Live?
Yeah. You were doing a little warm up when we had this, and I thought, man, it'd be cool to hear you, even if you wanted to just riff on something for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just pull up a sound.
I've been talking about how amazing Keith Nolan is. Now I want people to hear how badass this guy is.
Okay, so let me see. Uh, oh, are you there?
I'm here.
Sorry, let me see where our video is. I've lost the screen.
Sorry, I totally put you on the spot.
Oh,
I know that
okay, I see. I see.
we didn't plan that, but
Okay, so, okay, this is a tune called What's Coming Next, and
okay.
we've just been working on it. My friend Charlie literally the other day put some baritone and sax on it, and it's just a little groove. I'll play not all of it, just a little bit because. Now someone tell me something, something I don't know. I'm just trying to keep the wolves from knocking on my door. Now, babe, I said what? I said what? Now, what's coming next? What's coming next, baby? Kind of goes like that.
Love it, man. That your accent disappears when you sing that, man. I can hear a little Harry Connick, Nolan's vibe right there.
Yeah, thank you.
Love it, man. God, I just,
yeah.
I miss it.
It makes you feel good. You know, I tell people all the time when they say, "Oh, why do you play blues?" Well, I play and write a lot of stuff, but when I play blues, it just makes me feel good, and it's the only music that rewards you for playing it.
Right.
You know?
It does, man. God,
So,
you got a gift. Yeah, I forgot what a great voice you have too, man. That so that one's called What's Coming Next?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one ballad if anybody's interested on Spotify and YouTube. It's called "Pardon Me for Asking."
Okay.
So it's not on the album. I released it as a single, just on.
Do me a favor. Direct message me, private message me that link, and I'll post it in an archive here so that people can go out and check it out on Spotify. Is that cool?
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, it'd be great.
Man,
so yeah. So,
what a gift! Really, man, I appreciate you doing that off the spot. I think it's unfortunate, right, that we're dealing with this pandemic, but there are some really positive things that came out of it. You talked about being able to hustle and really put your life back together and be able to pivot, find ways to overcome adversity, and find new ways to be able to go out and forge a path for yourself. But had this not happened, there's no way that I would have been able to spend an hour with you and just catch up and see your smiling face, you know?
Yeah, I know. And these are unfortunately, these are the good things that come out of it for whatever reasons. And it really is bad. And a lot of people are not as fortunate. They've lost everything, you know.
Right.
And I think the world's got to wake up as well. There's, musicians, artists, everybody's out of work. Sound engineers, camera people, lighting professionals, graphic designers, people who make the posters, the printing houses. Everybody's bad. I understand that it's a pandemic, but when you come to a musician, there's much less awareness, because people just see you on stage or whatever.
Right.
But, I have friends here overseas, and everything has stopped, and they might have to sell some of the most precious instruments or things they have to make a living with,
right,
just to eat. Because when COVID started and lockdown started, literally some had no money the next day, let alone the next month.
Right.
Some have other incomes to keep them going till we get through it. So, I have to say, Thai people are extremely generous when it comes to helping each other out. They'll always share food or make sure you have food or you have. So it's really special in that way, and it's beautiful.
Well, it is a reminder to everyone, I think, that it's because it affects every single person on the planet that we have to stand together. We got to take care of each other and be kind and good to each other, like across the board. there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, you've seen this in Ireland. You've seen it everywhere right now. The political unrest that's happening in the United States is it's destructive. And I see less people banding together and more people forging apart. And when you and I can look across the screen from each other all the way on the other side of the planet and talk about commonalities, and I would love that other people that can do that across the political aisles or, you know, any kind of other divide. And I'm glad you.
I hope so, because there's a great danger, because the music culture, which employs, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions of people, is an industry, but people kind of don't see it as an industry because it's creative,
right?
You know, and but it's a $1 billion industry.
Right.
All the hotels, all of the entertainment venues, all the concert venues, everything that goes with it. And if people can't survive because our margins are so low and things are so expensive and people are paying so much tax, they have no reserves just to stay afloat for maybe 3-6 months. If the music venues, concert venues, or the production companies literally go out of business, what happens to culture? Who's going to go and visit a city, a Bangkok city, when you've got no live music venues?
Right, right.
People don't go to Thailand or France to stay in a hotel and sit in the lobby.
Right.
They go to experience the city and its inhabitants and all it's got to offer. So people come and live in these cities. People invest in their time and effort and their talents in businesses, and they grow them. And, you know, musicians go and play with them, light and sound technicians go and work in them, and people make really cool posters and do social media advertising. And so it's a, you know, it's a big thing, and that's in a great danger of breaking, you know. And I know several venues won't reopen because of COVID, you know. And I saw Pizza Hut in the States has filed for bankruptcy. Got out of business already in the States.
We could do with less Pizza Huts and more music venues, you know. Really, I do worry a lot about our local music venues. And yesterday I had one of the booking agents that works in this, I live in Portland, Oregon, and he works with a ton of bands. And we were working on putting together a show on this show with a bunch of independent music coalition members so that we can talk about ways to support the venues. Because if the venues don't come back, the musicians have nowhere to play, you know. So that's the next step. But I think awareness, just, you know, the fact that you're talking about the awareness about, you know, all the different components. It's not just the people that are on stage, but are all the peripheral people as well. And, you know, the ways to be able to support those people as people that appreciate and understand the culture, go out and find their Spotify page and like and support them and download a track. And like I said, you know, what we can do to take care of each other is the most important thing at this point. And that's what I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that maybe somebody in, you know, Louisiana saw Keith Nolan on here and said, man, you know what? When we open up after this pandemic, I need to get that guy down here playing a little bit of Delta blues, you know? And
well, that'd be nice.
Yeah, well, I want you over on this continent for a little bit. Have you toured the States at all?
No, I've never been. So
you've never been to the States at all?
It's on my list of things to do, but I never made it over to the States. Yeah.
Wow.
I played with some American artists.
Yeah.
But it's always been on this side of the world. So I've never actually gone there. And every time I've kind of thought about it and said, oh, I should buy a plane ticket and go to New Orleans or go to Chicago or go to New York or to Texas. And see and hear some of the musicians I've always wanted to hear live. I've always been busy or doing something or moving or caught up in rebuilding something or touring and you didn't have time myself. And so one day.
One day. This is not the time to come. Not right now, man.
No, I know.
Not just because of the pandemic, man. This is not the time to be in the States. But I think you know, there will be time, and when it's time, you are more than welcome, man. I can't wait to have you over here to show you around.
I very much look forward to that. Yeah, it'd be great to hang and show me around and play some music with you again.
You got it, man. We'll hop on stage someplace, whether we're invited or not. So, don't forget to send me that link to the Spotify ballad, and folks,
Yep.
if you're able, check out Keith Nolan. Go hit his Facebook and his Instagram and Spotify pages. And do you have a KeithNolan.com or is there some website out there?
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel, Keith
Okay.
Nolan Music. Yeah, and just search Keith Nolan on Spotify, Keith Nolan Music or whatever on YouTube. And there's a bunch of videos from gigs like with my band, and there's a bunch of tracks like "Pardon Me for Asking" and some others that are out there. So,
that's great, man.
Awesome.
You play me 30 seconds more just to play me something out, something funky?
Something funky. Yeah, okay. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll use something.
I think we jammed Superstitious, didn't we, when we were in there?
Oh, Superstition, yeah. Okay, Superstition. Let me just get a old classic, pull up an old funky clav.
There we go. There we go.
Which I've taken to playing clav a lot, and putting a wah on it like an effect, it's also.
That's so badass, man. I love it. I love it. You are the king, Keith Nolan. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand. This guy woke up early just to hang out with us, man. How was that? I really I pray that you're healthy and that this you mentioned right now you guys are in a good space where the cases are down. So let's just.
We have no new cases in about 33 days or 34 days. The weather's beautiful. The shops are open again. No live music yet. No clubs. No big social gatherings.
Sure.
I think that's coming in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And so they're easing that part of it. But we've had no deaths, thank God, in about 30 days, 33 days.
Amazing.
And very, very, very few cases of COVID, but no deaths, and we're in a very good place. I think we're very lucky, actually, that the figures are what they are here, as opposed to what we're seeing in countries in the region, Europe and the States.
Yeah, I don't know that it's luck. I think that you guys are doing the right things to take care of it. So if you're here in the States or anywhere else, just be safe, wear the mask, and stay inside. And as long as you can, man, we need to take care of these people and get this thing out of here so we can go back to living, right?
But
thank you so much, my friend. I am really glad to see you again. And Brian Abrams, thanks for introducing me to this wonderful cat. I love seeing your space.
We'll catch up soon enough. And thanks so much for the interview and chatting and having me on your show. It's awesome.
My pleasure. I miss you, buddy. Have a beautiful week. Okay.
Thanks, man. You too.
All right. Thanks again, Keith. Take care.